background is startup tech companies. I've had 9 or 10 of them, which means I've got a very short attention span and I'm old. But it also means, like, my background is business. I've never had a company that was involved in any sort of social impact initiative. But everything changed as far as that goes after I saw what I'm about to show you. Do we have the slide up yet? There we go. What I'm about to show you here.
I got hit and my friend got hit. Shane!
Hang on 1 second.
Shane, bro.
So this was about 2.5 years ago, and I was happily going about one of my startups, and I came home and saw that on the news. And this was a drive-by shooting in my city, just a few blocks up from my office. Now, you know, I live in a gated community. I didn't even know we had gangs in our city. This was all news to me. And I'm sitting there going, well, shit, this is my city. And so who is this guy that thinks it's a good idea to ride down our streets, wave a pistol out the window, and pull the trigger and kill somebody, right? So I reach out to my friend who's a district attorney. I'm like, Ben, man, who's top gangster? I want to meet this guy, because this is absolutely flippin' ridiculous. And that's sort of how this got started. He hooked me up with the gang task force, who introduced me to top gangster, and I spent the next 1.5 years just sort of hanging out with the gangs. And for us, like, in our city, we have 3 primary gangs: Bloods, Crips, and Gangster Disciples. Dune here is a member of GD, or Gangster Disciples. And we spent, so I spent like 1.5 years hanging out with them, trying to understand what was the culture within these gangs, and what was driving the violence, and what could we do, if anything, to try and make a difference and impact it. So we traveled around the country. We did a lot of things. We went out to Homeboy out in LA, if you guys know them, awesome place. Went to St. Benedict's on the East Coast. And what I realized was St. Benedict's works with the kids on the East Coast, trying to prevent them from entering gangs. Homeboy in LA works with the older guys that are like, I don't know, 35 to 50 that are aged out of the gangs. There's nobody actually doing anything with active gang members. So it's like 16 to 30. And I'm like, well, shit, those are the dudes that are pulling the trigger, right? And so that was what I was trying to figure out. Was there any way to do that? And as I got into it, I found 3 really remarkable things that completely changed the way I viewed gangs. And y'all gonna think this is absurd based upon what you read, but I'm telling you it's true. First, gangs are far more like a fraternity than they are organized crime. In fact, they're pretty crappy at crime, right? You see them getting arrested in the papers all the time. No offense. These 3 times, right? But that's really true. And like, they have mission statements and vision statements and key values that are written just like our companies do. And we would be proud to work for them. They talk about things like knowledge and brotherhood and loyalty and community and growth. And like, his group's got a thing written that's like 30 pages that everyone in this room would be cool with working or for something that stood for that. Secondly, I figured if you're in the gang, then your mantra is, man, I'm shooting people and I'm selling drugs, when I first got into this. Again, totally not true. About 25%, well, it depends on what city we're talking about. And we're involved not just in our city, but other larger cities around the country. So depending on what city we're talking about, anywhere from 25 to maybe on the high end, 35, 40% of gang members are involved in some sort of crime, drugs, extortion, this sort of thing, with some regularity. The rest of them are in our high schools. They're working for fast food, they're working for supermarkets, or they're not working at all. And then lastly, and this was really important to me, because I kind of was sketched out by the idea of, well, if I'm going to get involved in this, I don't want to be dealing with some big kingpin out in Compton who has a serious business going on with drugs, because that sounds kind of dangerous, right? And so I imagined there was this guy out here who was just pushing kilos and kilos and kilos of heroin into the gang system, and it was this very organized distribution stuff. Not true at all. I know of a number of large distributors. They are not gang members. They're people like me or people from South America, but they are not gang members, and you do not need to sell heroin or any other kind of, or commit any kind of crime to be part of the gang. It's not part of their mantra at all. So with that, I'm like, well, shit, maybe there is a way to start a business with these guys. And I have a company called Untapped. If any of you guys drink beer here, maybe you've used it. So we're really tightly plugged into the beer space. And so we had this idea, well, what if we could start a brewery and hire all these dudes in? So most of our employees are active gang members. What would that look like? And so we started having meetings. We put the word out on the street, okay, for the next four Saturdays, we're inviting, if you're a gang member, we're inviting you into Untapped, to the conference room. We have this big room with a big old screen like that. And my sons and I were doing this pitch, just like we were pitching for a company, right? And the first Saturday, we had like a dozen people. The next Saturday, more and more. And by the fourth, we had almost 100 active gang members. Now, these are dudes that were probably fighting within the past 24 hours, certainly the past week. There's guns in the room, there's knives in the room. It's an interesting environment, right? Dune, you were there. I mean, talk a little bit about what that was like to walk into that room with all these people.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, man. Like, at first, you know, through ignorance, at stoplights, we couldn't be around each other. Walmart, we couldn't be around each other. Corner stores, I mean, the beef was just crazy.
Guns go off, right?
Guns go off like crazy, but through the opportunity, we had to take advantage of it.
And that was the thing that came out of that. So like I remember towards the end of it, one of the guys, I said, man, how are you guys sitting in the same room? We're sitting here having these really interesting conversations about business, race. Like, what do you think about a white dude up here trying to like start this? Kind of weird, right? You know, what do you think about this? And the guy said this, he said, you know what? Opportunity is the great equalizer. And he's right? Amazing. So anyway, I'm like, okay, maybe this could work. Let's run a test. So I hired these three dudes, really good at selling stuff on the street, really good. And I'm thinking, well, do skills transfer? You know, they're sales to sales, right? So we throw them into Untapped. Untapped sells promotion and analytics software. They didn't know what the hell that was. And so we throw them into the Untapped training program, right? So there's those three dudes and, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 or 7 other people that are going through this 3-month ramp to become a good salesperson in Untapped. And 2 things happened that were remarkable. Within 24 hours, maybe 48, man, they were fully integrated into the culture, because I was worried they weren't going to be able to fit in and it was going to be just weird. Within a week, they were like 3 of the most favorite people in the entire building. That was surprising. Then secondly, after 3 months, they were selling the hell out of some software. The dude in the middle still holds records for certain metrics around our sales program. So I was like, well, damn, that was sort of unexpected, right? And maybe we just got lucky, and maybe we picked the only 3 guys in the entire gangs that could do this. So let's run another test. So I put the word out on the street. I said, okay, if you have high status in the gangs in our city, then I want to hire you. I want to pay you $50,000 a year. I got to compete with street money, right? And I'm assuming you know what the hell you're doing, because you got status, you got leadership. So I'm assuming you're going to come in here ready to work. Because remember, this is for profit. We are not nonprofit. We are not warm and fuzzy. Like, we offer opportunity. I am not in the fixer-up program. So you come in here, and I'm going to give you opportunity. I'm going to pour all kinds of stuff into you. But, you know, you need to move. And so imagine, we've got these guys coming in. We're in a conference room that's, maybe this size to this space here. Here we are. And again, it was kind of like those meetings. It was weird. Like, Dune, you were there too. Like, what was that like? That was even more intense, right?
Yeah, well, kind of picture this. Like, the guy across from me, his big homie actually shot me in my arm. Yeah. And it was, like I said, it was very intense, but
there was a lot of screaming. The first 2 weeks kind of sucked. I was like wondering, well, is this really a good idea? Because there were definitely, everyone had bullet scars in their body. And often, certainly if it was from another gang member, or potentially from the guy sitting around. So it was really sketchy. But it began to come together. And what I told them was, look, here's the deal. We're going to put you through a 2-month boot camp. Actually, excuse me, I'm going to back up because I want to show you this video. It all got better when the conversation started happening. And I want to show you this conversation because it sort of gives you an idea. So imagine you're in a room and the guy across from you shot your very best friend, your brother, killed him, right? And you're in the room. So how do you deal with that? And you always hated him. You've never talked to him. You wanted to kill him. Check this out.
How would you feel if I killed your best friend? It was 2 dudes from 2 different sides of town who was ready to die for what we believed in. It started with him stabbing me after a fight, you know what I'm saying?
What the beef was about, I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know. He got shot.
Fortunate for me, I survived, you know, but how can we fix this?
And it all started from me having a desire to wanting to go talk to him and see how he feels.
Like I said, man, I appreciate them approaching me, man, and starting that conversation, man. Without that conversation, man, we wouldn't be where we at right now. Living true.
Now we're both employees at TRU Colors Brewing Company, and it's much bigger than what it seems. It's more like a brotherhood.
So you'll hear that a lot in TRU Colors. We believe really strongly that much of the divisiveness and the issues between people today are between people that actually never even met each other. And we believe very strongly that if you can sit people down and start that first conversation, a lot of things begin to change. And so you'll see that throughout us talking about TRU Colors. But anyway, so we start this thing up, and we start this boot camp up, and I told them there's three things I'm going to judge you on. And if you pass those three things, we're going to start this business. If we didn't, then nice knowing you, but cool experiment, but ain't happening. And so the first was, show me you can be disciplined. You come in and you be positive, and you're on time and all that stuff, so be disciplined. The second is, I'm about to pour a boatload of knowledge into your head over the next 2 months. Prove to me that you can take all that knowledge and you can use it and you can do something with it, right? And then lastly, and this was really important to me at the time, show me you have influence. These are leaders, right? These are the leaders of all the gangs in our city. Show me you have influence over the roughly 700 to 800 active gang members that are in our city. And the way I want you to show me is I don't want to see one shot fired during this 2-month period. I don't want to see one gang-related shooting. Now that sounds like a really low bar to people like us, right? But it's not. In our city, and probably in yours too, there's a gang-related shooting every week, if not twice a week. And so off we go. And we have this 2-month boot camp, and I'm going to let KO sort of talk about, she was in charge of putting this on. If you can talk a little bit about that.
So if I could take you on a tour of our typical day, it started at 8:30 in the morning, and we hired a big burly guy as a trainer, Josh, and the guys went to the gym and worked out with him. That was his only job, just to work our guys out. We kind of had this bet in the office that somebody would throw up, right?
And we always won.
Always won.
Always won. If we didn't, we called Josh.
With the pocket full of singles I won with, right? And after that, leaving from the gym, our guys, if you could imagine, a group of big, burly gangsters doing hot yoga, right? And wait, in the most compromising position that we could ever think of. And so that was the morning part of our day. And in the afternoon, we exercised their mind. And we focused on things like the 4 core, which is money, transportation, relationships, and finances, because we believe stability drives growth. And that growth just didn't stop there. We took our guys outside the wall of our building, and we took them on trips, not just for fun and fancy, but to stretch them, to show them that greater was possible.
Yeah. And remarkably, it worked. At the end of 2 months, they had been disciplined, they were positive, they did learn, they did take the knowledge, they did things with it, and there hadn't been a shooting. And not only that, it's been 16 months since we did that, and in our city, there's been 3 gang-related shootings since then, down 90%, all because of that, right? Yeah. So we get past that, we get to, so, well, shit, we got to have an initiation because we're a gang, right? And so we're thinking, what do we do? Well, none of our guys had ever been in an airplane, and they were terrified to fly. And so what we did is we pushed them out of an airplane. Check this out. Woo! Scare the hell out of us. So anyway, you jump. What was it like?
Man, it was very challenging. It was challenging. I never been in a plane, but for my first time, the doors opened and I jumped out.
You did
Did a couple of backflips, you know.
Not on purpose.
But the main thing is I left all my problems in the air, and here I stand today.
Yeah.
Woo.
So we get to that point, and then it's like, okay, we're going to do this. So at the beginning of this year, we founded TRU Colors Brewing, and we founded it as a brewery, but also with a very, very tightly coupled social mission to unite rival gangs and stop the violence. But really, at its core, we're about unity. It's not, we're just using gangs to show, right? If you can get Bloods and Crips together, you can get anybody together. If you can get them on the same page, you can do that with anyone. And we're looking to grow fast. People ask, well, so where's your microbrewery going to be? We have this really unique opportunity because of our partnerships and media opportunities, all this sort of thing, to be in every city across America by the end of next year, which is crazy, but we do. And so we're not really craft beer in their traditional sense, nor do we really want to be. Like, I want to appeal to as many people as possible because we're building a platform. We're not just building a brewery, we're not just selling beer, we're building a platform to drive unity, and that's what we see. So I think, with TRU Colors, it's where a lot of companies are beginning to get. There's a lot of companies out there that are cause-based, that are awesome, that are writing 2% of their profits go to their cause or whatever. I think, and certainly with us, I think that you're seeing companies now embrace their mission and have it become an integral part of what they do. And we get our hands dirty every day. We make mistakes and we clean up. We're really good at cleaning up. But we are very much in our mission, and it is a big part, every bit as important to us as the beer. Here's a couple of our beers that we're currently testing. Gayo, you've been involved in some of that. Can you talk to some of how that came to be?
Yeah, so we believe that conversation will drive unity. And so our beers were all created to stir up provocative conversation. So we have the conversation, the initiation, the gateway, and the neighborhood hero. So today I want you to ask yourself, if you had to drive a conversation, which beer would you pick up?
Yeah, and that's the whole point. We want our cans, we want our beers to be provocative to start that conversation. On the mission side, we've got 3 or 4 main components that drive that. We want to be active. We want this to scale, first of all, so it's not just in our city, and we can't put a brewery in every city, right? So we have this work program that we call TRU Impact, and we bring in guys that are active gang members. We put them through a similar sort of 2-month boot camp, and we prepare them to work in other companies. And so we've got guys in our impact program working in manufacturing. They are TRU Colors employees, and they're very coupled to what we're doing, and they drive our mission in these companies, but they're working in manufacturing and in software, construction, landscaping, all sorts of things. But it allows us to scale in other cities across the country. So for example, there's a large city in the southeast whose mayor says she's going to hire 200 of our apprentices and put them into Parks and Rec. We think we can get up to 1,000 employees in our impact program across America next year. And then these guys go into the businesses and change perceptions, right? I mean, Dune has been involved in it for a while as a leader in this area. Can you talk a little bit about, like, when you go into these businesses, what happens?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Me, black guy, record.
Kind of sketchy looking.
I look kind of scary, right? Nah, but, and on the other hand, like, the perception that I had of white people, I thought they didn't care, which I found out it wasn't true. Like, we're all the same.
And that is the thing. So it is just sort of redefining what the humanity of this is all about, and it's changing these perceptions, and it's having a significant impact in the communities that we're doing it. TRU Media, we believe strongly that to change culture fast, you have to do it through media. I mean, I can sit here and talk to you guys, but if I play a rap video or show you a movie over time, you change quicker. And so what that is, we hire gang members at cities across America, and we team them up with videographers, and they go into the projects in the hood in urban America, and they pull out the most amazing stories. Some of them are tragic and horrific, as you would imagine, and some are just flippin' inspiring beyond belief. But they are what's going on in the hood. They are what's going on in these communities. And it gives a voice to these communities, and then it also, for people like us who don't get to really view it other than through the lens of the news, which is bullshit, you get to see what's really going on in there, and hopefully it inspires you to connect. And we have large companies like Netflix now that are interested in running our content next year on their urban channel. So there's really huge opportunity here, I think. And then lastly, we do events. Events for us are things like we have weekly small events where gang leaders come together in cities across America to talk about the stuff that's going on, the beef that's going on the street, and they talk about it and they solve it before the guns come out, right? And in one of the cities we're in Atlanta, we're seeing in just 3 months a 20% reduction in violent crime that's gang related. It's crazy, right? And then we have large events that we're doing also, again, just trying to reshape what people are thinking, reshape how people view, frankly, one another, but specifically gang members and what the opportunity is for them. Now, lastly, I want to show you this video. This is a video that we've put together actually to recruit speakers for some of our larger events that we have going on next year. But it shows some of the people that are involved in True Colors and gives you a little bit of color for what they're like, maybe, I think. And so let me check this out.
Not all of us got the same start. But when opportunity strikes, you push forward.
True Colors has united rival gangs, Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciples, and others, and in doing so has significantly decreased violence in our city. And we expect the same to happen as we roll out True Colors across America next year. This impact is changing the way people perceive gangs, and True Colors events are just one way that we continue to deliver this message. And these events have already gotten the attention of major media outlets. 60 Minutes, the Washington Post, even the United Nations have all come down to participate in telling the True Colors story.
We work together every day to rise above the expectations that others have set for us. And we're reducing violence by bringing positivity and hope back to our community.
This is not just an event. This is a movement.
We strive every day on the front lines of our community to make tomorrow better.
We want to change the world by pulling people together at the Make Your Move event and empowering to be more entrepreneurial and self-reliant.
True Colors events are opening minds and igniting change and giving a voice to a community that for too long has been unheard. We have major corporations and media backing us, and now we need you to join the True Colors movement and use your skills to inspire and impact others. It's time for everyone to make a move.
We are true.
Truth, responsibility, unity.
The time is now.
Make your move.
So that's kind of True Colors in 20 minutes. But if you don't walk away with anything else, I want you to walk away realizing like you guys are uniquely positioned because of your backgrounds, your resources, your education to make a huge change in whatever it is you choose to do. And as I think it was Gene Case yesterday said, if you don't have red flags around you, at least a couple of them, you're not pushing hard enough, right? And so walk away realizing if I can step into this world, y'all can do anything, because this is crazy. And the other thing is that change comes often from the most unexpected partnerships, right? Bloods, Crips, GD at the same table, seriously? Black, white, liberals and conservatives? Like, walk away recognizing it doesn't matter. Like, you can get that conversation started, and you can then begin to focus on the person and not the issue to start. It changes everything. And then lastly, when we launch next year, buy our beer. Thanks, guys.